What's going on, everybody? Well, today we're going to be talking about this 300-gallon tank that we have. But before we do, let's rewind and look back when we built this thing. We started out with this trash can sump filtration, and it really didn't work out too well because it was too tall. So we ran out to Home Depot, picked up a 70-gallon tub, brought it home, turned it into a full DIY sump filtration system, and it has been functioning fantastic. Keeps the water perfectly clean, crystal clear, everything is healthy. We got this thing installed up underneath the cabinet and we started our scaping process, and well, it turned out basically like this. You can see it's pretty bare, but this is like a week into this thing being set up, and well, today it's fully grown out and looks like this. We have multiple types of tetras and some angelfish in here, and today we're going to be stocking this with 2 more species of fish. So let's get into this. I'm using some scissors and cutting this jungle valve down because it has grown to the surface and it needs a trim. I'm also using my gravel vac as well as my sponge to clean the glass. We just want a really clean tank before we fill this thing back up. As a part of cleaning this tank, I'm also harvesting hornwort that I've been growing in this tank for the last few months. And as you can see here, we have a great amount of hornwort that we're able to take out of here. Well, now it's time to fill this thing back up. Well, we need to dechlorinate this water, so we're going to use some API Aqua Essential. Well, now that we have this water change finished and we've got all these plants trimmed up, we need to add a couple of more items to this tank before we get some new fish in here. With the consumption rate of these plants and the nutrients in the water, as well as doing the water change, we need to go ahead and replenish some of those nutrients. And what we're going to be using today is API's Leaf Zone. This stuff is fantastic for growing plants, makes them nice and green, and the growth rate is great. I mean, you can look back here. These jungle valves right here were probably, I've trimmed those twice in a month. And today when we trimmed these, they were already back to the surface and they are growing like crazy. And the only thing I can attribute that to is the fact that we use the API root tabs that we add to this tank once a month, as well as the API Leaf Zone that we add to this tank once a week. One of the other things that we use in this tank, because this is a non-CO2 tank, is the API CO2 booster, which works fantastic for providing liquid CO2 for your plants. But the growth in here is fantastic, guys. So if you guys would be interested in any of this jungle val or this hornwort, we have plenty jungle val for sale at freshwaterscrub.com, as well as plenty of hornwort. So along with the jungle val as well as the hornwort, we have all kinds of things like golden nasea, java ferns, anubias, anacris, if it's legal in your state, all kinds of different plants. So make sure you go ahead and visit freshwaterscrub.com and use the code 10, that's TEN 10 for 10% off all of your orders. For today, what I really wanted to focus on in this tank, as I said, was getting the water change done, as well as getting some of this hornwort hung off of this driftwood. Hornwort is an amazing plant that is versatile because you can hang it, you can actually stuff this into the substrate and it will begin to grow, or you can just float it on top of the water. Now, I am choosing to move this hornwort down onto the driftwood and hang it because it kind of gives it a cool look, and this stuff will grow all the way to the surface where we will be able to then harvest it for sale at freshwaterscrub.com, as well as in other tanks. Now this stuff is great because I use this stuff in all my guppy tanks to hide the fish fry. We're actually about to put some in the LED bubble aquarium. If you have not seen that video, this is what it looks like here. These mollies have been breeding and there are babies in here, and there's not really a whole lot of places for these guys to hide, so we're going to place some of this hornwort into this tank as well. But the plants in here look good, all the fish that are in here look fantastic, and today, well, we're going to be adding some new fish to this tank. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get out of here and go pick up some new fish. All right, guys, well, we're back at the house now and we have our fish. And we're gonna go ahead and start the acclimation process. Before we do though, I just wanted to show you this tank and show you how clear and how good it looks. Yes, I know these are chopped off, but they will grow back to the surface just within a couple of weeks and they'll look fantastic. But looking at this is how much I cut off of here. So we have a little bit of this hornwort that was just old and kind of decrepit and needed to come out. But this is all of the tops of those jungle val that we have cut off. And like I said, this stuff will grow back so quick. So when you have aquatic plants, you should always dispose of these appropriately by taking these and bagging them up in a plastic bag and throwing them in the garbage. If you live in an area where you have a noxious weed or a nuisance weed type ordinance, you want to make sure that your aquatic plants are legal to own and have. Now, for me in Texas, hornwort and jungle val both are completely legal and are not a part of our nuisance aquatic plant list. So what I'm going to do with these is I can take these, because they are not, I can take these and go ahead and put these into my compost bin, which is what I'll do. I then use that compost once it's done because it's fully organic, and I use that in my plant grow out tanks for the purpose of propagating plants for growth for sale on freshwaterscrub.com. So this will all go into my compost bin outside and will be turned right back into dirt. So now looking at this tank though, this tank looks fantastic. I love the way the hornwort kind of hangs and floats up off of this driftwood. It looks like it was just kind of floating down a river and got caught up in it. But all this stuff is looking really good. You can kind of see it over here. But tank looks fantastic, clear, perfect. All the fish are looking good. So now what we need to do is go ahead and get these new fish in. Now I bought a fish for this tank that I have never in my entire life owned. I've never seen one. I honestly don't even know. But I did a lot of research on this thing to make sure that it was gonna be okay with everything in here. I talked to people about it. It's gonna be perfectly fine. So the first thing is we need to go ahead and get these two species of fish acclimated to this tank. So let's get that done. All right, guys. Well, these fish have been temperature acclimated. They've been floating in here for a while now. What we want to do now is go ahead and acclimate them to the parameters of the water. So now that they have the temperature down, what we'll do is go ahead and slowly add water to this bag until we fully replace the water, allowing them to acclimate to the parameters of the water. So what I'll do is I'll just dip this bag down in here, get some of this tank water in there, and let these guys sit. Can you tell what these guys are right here? Let me know in the comments if you know what these are. All right, guys, well, these fish are fully acclimated. But before we get these guys in here, I wanna go ahead and get this GoPro set up inside of this tank so you guys can see the release of these fish. So let me find a good spot for this thing. All right, guys, well, we have one spiny eel right here, and he's just chilling back behind this rock. He's got to acclimate to the environment a little bit. We have this little guy right here who's just hanging out in the open completely, but they are doing fantastic. And our little tetras back here have actually schooled up and they are hanging out together, so they're all looking good. In fact, the odd thing is they've actually schooled up with the blue and red Colombian tetras. So all these tetras have schooled up down here. They're kind of staying down towards the bottom, which is good. But these little spiny eels will eventually make their way over here to the rock structure in this tank. And this is where they'll spend most of their time, as they like being hidden up under the rocks and things like that. If I notice that they're spending a lot of time down on this end, I mean, they do have rocks up in here that they can hide under. and things like that, but we may add another rock structure right under here or something like that, but we'll have to see. Alright guys, well hopefully you went on to enjoy this video today, and hopefully you enjoyed these little Buenos Aires tetras as well as these zebra spiny eels. They're going to make a great addition to this 300 gallon, and we're looking forward to watching these things grow out. Well, with that, hopefully you're enjoying the content, and I want to tell you real quick, our next 2 videos coming out. One is going to be an epic terrarium build, but the other is going to be an update on our jellyfish. And in fact, it's so crazy what happened with these jellyfish. I had to reach out to a marine biologist to understand how or what was going on. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you turn on that notification bell so you do not miss that video that's coming out or any of the other content coming out on the channel. With that guys, thank you so very much for all the support. If you have not followed us on Instagram or Facebook, links to both are down below in the description, as well as visit freshwaterscrub.com, use your code 10 for 10% off all your orders. We sold completely out of plants last week, and I have to say thank you to everybody that made a purchase. And hey, make sure you get your order in quick so you don't miss out. And with that guys, hey, we will see you next time.